Hi, Dmitry.
How's it going? Thank you, Dean, for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. Dmitry, so here's the hypothetical for this podcast, okay? You've signed a 1-year brand new fractional CMO engagement, and today is day one. So tell folks a little bit about you, and then talk about what you normally see and do in the first 3 months of a new engagement.
Okay. Well, as a little bit of background, I'm a fractional CMO, marketing consultant, and I'm
Mhm.
also the CEO of Flagship Studio. Uh, for my background, it was always in marketing management. Started in real estate marketing management, some legal marketing
Hmm.
management, and then worked my way into marketing agencies and then owning my own agency and basically taking experiences from marketing management and agency life, combining it into a new experience, kind of melding that fractional CMO world with the actual implementation teams to make sure that the client has everything they need. So now we get a new engagement.
Right. Day one.
This is always the fun part. This is where before we actually do the engagement, I would try to uh, have a little preamble with them and make sure that they understand that there are certain expectations going into working
Mhm.
with us. Number one, we need full buy-in from the executive team, full buy-in from their in-house staff, anybody that might be working there, depending on the size of the company, because change doesn't just happen overnight, and it definitely doesn't happen very quickly if there's a lot of resistance. And 9 out of 10 times, the reason they're hiring us is because there's some sort of change that needs to be done. So the first thing is just basically meeting everybody, buying a little bit of goodwill with the different team members, trying to understand what they do. So that's the first thing. We always explore and understand who is who, what they do, where do they affect the different outcomes and choices of the organization, and then we first establish that. Once we have that, we typically do a full audit of everything from their sales process all the way up to their current marketing and everything that they're doing there. And once we've had a full assessment, we then start making our recommendations. We write a marketing plan, an updated marketing plan for them. And then from there, we start
Mhm.
discussing how they want to actually do the implementation. So that's usually within the first 90 days, all of that happens.
That's a busy 90 days.
It is. It is. But
So,
we work with smaller clients usually. So they want things fast. So
yeah, yeah. So, hi, Sarah. How are you?
Hi.
Sarah, tell folks a little bit about you, and then talk about what you normally see client-wise when you walk in virtually or otherwise on day one.
Okay. Well, hi. I am Sarah Vasquez, the ad alchemist, and I focus primarily on the how and why that makes people buy.
Hmm.
So I'm a fractional CMO that has a background in the creative side of marketing. I started as a photographer 17 years or so ago, worked my way up into marketing strategy. My educational background is in strategic communications and neuromarketing. So really the super nitty gritty, tiny little triggers, understanding what makes people do what they do in a consumer environment, and how to create messaging and brand touch points that will stick with them to turn them into loyal fans.
All right. And what do the first 90 days look like normally
Oh,
for your
yes, that
engagements?
part. So the first 90 days, when I sign with a new client, I've
Hmm.
already had quite a bit of brand discovery up to that point. We've already established a relationship. I have a fairly good idea of what their pain points are, what we're doing. So at that point, I'm going to go into the first 30 days, probably is going to be a deep dive on the brand, doing a brand audit, understanding interviews with stakeholders, just like really deep dive to get caught up with the brand's journey to that point. Then after that, I'll move into strategy And before we can touch strategy, though, we
Mhm.
have to make sure that the brand is actually talking to the customers that they're trying to talk to, that they don't have any hidden niche segments that they're leaving money on the table with, so on and so forth. So we get their customer personas and the messaging strategies really dialed in. And then we move into overall strategy to target whatever the main goals and objectives are for the engagement. And then the third 90 days, third, not 90 days, third month, the third segment of that is when we begin implementation of this and setting up frameworks and operational processes. And then after that, if things are running smoothly, then we would already begin to go into optimization of existing quick wins.
Well, Sarah, so stay with me for a second. Imagine that I'm the CEO then of the client, okay? And at some point, I had to convince somebody to allocate the spend to bring in, a fractional CMO, even if it was just me that I had to convince. Right? But I've allocated the spend. It's going to be a year. What should I like see or experience in sort of the first 90 days that probably if I've never had a CMO and certainly never a fractional CMO, like what am I going to experience or see that I haven't seen before?
What you should experience would be initial quick wins that are going to show you that the CMO X understands what your brand's struggle is, where you're at. So they should be immediately able to come in and give you a quick win, even if it's a small one. From there, you should be able to have somebody that really deep dives on what your problem is. The beauty of hiring a fractional CMO is that you get that expert level experience and knowledge about a niche topic where you're not having to spend that time that a C-level would normally be doing, like a lot of admin and operations things. But this allows you to hire someone or even several fractional CMOs that can really deep dive on a specific problem.
Mm-hmm. And so, Dmitry, let me invert the question a little bit. Okay, you've worked with lots of clients at this point. They've allocated the spend. They've brought in the fractional. How do companies tend to waste the money that they put aside for their what do they keep doing that they should have stopped doing, or what does the CEO keep doing that he or she should not do anymore, or what do they not do that they do? How are they muting the strengths of that fractional CMO? How do they mess it up?
Okay, well, there's a couple ways, depending on the personality of the CEO. Some try to bring you in because they're trying to settle they're trying to validate their own thoughts of what should be done.
Sure.
And if you don't have the same direction, they are oftentimes very hesitant and they don't push you. They don't give you everything that you need to get the work done, right? And they kind of set you up to fail or set themselves up otherwise. And then you've got the opposite, which is somebody that doesn't know anything about marketing, and they want you to do everything. However, one of the things that they always neglect to think about is just because you allocated budget for the fractional CMO doesn't mean that you're not going to have additional spend outside of that for the things you need to execute. So oftentimes if they don't plan ahead or if this fractional CMO doesn't tell them ahead of time, hey, you need to set aside additional budget besides what you would pay me for miscellaneous expenses or any changes, and then they'll be more prepared. But if they don't or they don't have that budget, oftentimes you're limited to what resources they already had, which oftentimes is actually not enough. A lot of times people fall flat on their face because they actually didn't allocate enough to marketing. So, that's usually the two things that I've seen.
Right.
But the last one would be maybe just not buying in or not everybody buying in or giving that authority to the person that comes in. Then everybody's just battling against them because they feel threatened. So, yeah, those are the three ways that they waste that I've seen.
Okay, so let's shift again. Okay, I'm still the CEO at this client company, and I'm looking at the marketing team, right, Dmitry? So, there's junior folks and maybe mid-level folks, and there may have been supervision or even management of that, but there's never been marketing leadership in the company before. This fractional CMO is the first one. All right, I'm looking at this team on day one. I'm trying to project forward in my mind of what that team's going to be like 12 months from now. Right? What are one or two ways that typically that marketing team or that marketing department is going to be different or better 12 months from now at the end of this fractional CMO's tenure versus on day one?
Well, depends, I guess, on the fractional CMO.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, at least on my side, I try to really listen to the more junior people, because oftentimes they're that boots on the ground. They see what's going on in the organization, but oftentimes their voices are not heard, or their ideas, they're not paid to give ideas or this or that sometimes. So what will happen is, they feel like nobody's really listening to them, and they stop trying. But as soon as you have somebody that's open to the ideas, has a better idea, like, these people are already doing boots on the ground, they're working on this, they know what might work, what would be a good idea. If you give them the opportunity, they'll actually have a better chance of excelling, and maybe even taking up better and bigger roles inside the company over time. So, my goal is always to bring the internal team up, because at the end of the day, if I leave that organization, we have to leave them with something that's going to actually be long lasting and help them continue on that same growth pattern.
Okay. No, that's a good answer. Sarah, so imagine that I'm one of those marketing team staffers. All right. It's 12 months from now, and I'm sort of looking back and like, I still work here. Whatever changes happened, like I still work in marketing. I'm sort of like looking around at my coworkers, and I'm kind of looking at the company, and I'm looking at the function of marketing. Like, what do I see as like one of those folks that are on the ground? Like, in most cases, like, are we doing something different? Do we think differently now than we used to before? Is there a different mix of full-time and part-time? Is there a different mix of inside versus outside our agency kind of, work being done? Like, I'm sitting in my chair, said, wow, it's been a year. Like, hey, Sarah's finally out of here. Shoo. Like, wow, things are really different than a year ago. What's different?
The age-old marketing answer that sounds like a side answer. It depends, right? So it really depends on the existing team, what their strengths were, and what the goals were at the end of it. But usually what happens is you have a fairly scrappy marketing team, whether that's because it's low bandwidth or a lack of solid frameworks and operations, but you've usually got a team that's, when I come in, some level of burnt out, thankful to have some level of change. So in that initial 90 days of getting to know this team, part of that deep dive is going to be me learning what the existing team's strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and figuring out how to shore up those weaknesses and support the team in a way that they feel like they're excited about their job again, basically. And I'm also going to make sure that their skills are up leveled in wherever those sore spots are or wherever they want to go. So a lot of this happens for me with AI on my teams, using specialized AI tools or programs to help kind of shore that up. I focus a lot on neurodivergent communication strategies, because when you design for accessibility, it ends up working better for everybody. And you see that come through a lot in teams as pain points. So by the end of this 12 months, you should see essentially a well-oiled machine. So your team may be the same people it was before. It may have changed in size. It may have gotten smaller or bigger, depending on what's needed. But at that point, it should be a well-oiled and scalable marketing operations team or strategy or whatever.
All right. The next two questions for you guys, Sarah, we'll start with you. I'll ask you the first one. It's basically just a fill in the blank question, but you can fit as much into that bucket as you want. So just like finish this sentence for me. Many clients don't understand.
Many clients don't understand the concept of a big idea. I find that my biggest consistent pain point with clients is having to explain why it's okay to go bigger than what feels on brand, and why this needs to happen based on current trends, or why this is okay. Everybody wants the big idea. They want to be memorable, but CEOs, founders, top level stakeholders tend to be very hesitant when it comes to shaking things up. Again, everybody wants to have that big award winning campaign, or that golden age of marketing
Breakout
commercial that
success
sticks in your
campaign,
head,
yeah.
right? Like everybody wants that, but most leadership is afraid to go big enough to actually land that.
And Dmitry, what do you think? Many clients don't understand.
Many clients don't understand that sales and marketing teams should be married. Not
Yeah.
literally, but they don't understand that the realistic expectation usually is like it's two different departments. But in my book, if sales is not on board with marketing and marketing doesn't understand the needs of sales, everybody's falling flat on their face. And a lot of where a lot of the challenges usually come in that I see from analysis of an organization is that the marketing leadership and the sales leadership are really never talking, or there isn't proper marketing leadership to talk with sales, so they can buy that input from sales to understand like, hey, how are things working, right? Because you can't even measure ROI unless you have everything set up properly from sales and marketing sides.
Right.
So once you get that buy-in, you have that smooth communication. At that point, you'll see huge changes, even if it's the same campaign. Sometimes with sales buy-in versus without, it could fail or it can flourish. So it's just getting that first connection between the two is the starting point, I think.
All right. And then here's the second of the two fill in the blank questions. New fractional CMOs don't understand what? There's so much they don't understand. You're having trouble picking with something.
Well, it depends on also kind of like what verticals that you're going into, what kinds of companies you want. But
Maybe they don't understand they need to pick a vertical.
I feel like certain maybe new fractional CMOs don't understand that change doesn't happen overnight, and a lot of them like to promise results instantly, and in all reality, they end up falling flat on their face again. To say it again, but because they don't set the expectations correctly with their clients and tell them that this Rome wasn't built in a day. So it's you're going to be building on, especially you had all these issues in the past. It takes time to remedy them, right? How long did it take you to create those bad habits, to create that bad situation in the first place, for us to come in to then have to remedy it? So, I think that's one of the bigger things. And then people might get a bad taste after that experience where they didn't get the expected results, and that was just because they couldn't set expectations correctly.
Sarah, what do you think? New fractional CMOs don't understand or don't appreciate what?
That's a struggle to answer. How do I nail it down? Let me think. New fractional CEOs don't understand the reality that they don't know what they don't know yet about that brand, or that like things are going to come up that you could not plan for. And if you're new to the game, part of that just rolling with the punches comes with experience. And if you have not had to do that yet, you just don't know how to plan for that. And so it's kind of a trial by fire in the first few scenarios, because like I said, something's gonna come up that throws you for a loop, and you won't know what that is until it happens, whether that's a brand mishap or team dynamics. It's just, you can't plan for everything.
Fair enough. Okay, so it's the same question for both of you, and you can go in whichever order you want. But we don't curate guests for this podcast, which is to say everyone picks their own time slot. You're randomly, you have no idea who the other guest is going to be. So it's kind of like suddenly you find you're in an elevator with someone else who's basically in the same profession as you. And this is one of those professions. Fractional CMOs is one of those professions like project managers, where there might be lots of them, but they typically never work together. And so what question, Sarah, would you ask or would you want to ask Dmitry? And Dmitry, what question do you want to ask Sarah? Any one of you can go first, whoever has the question first.
Well, Dmitry, I would say, what flavor of marketer are you? Right? We all have our areas that we kind of niche into, whether that be brand or operations or SEO or whatever, right? Like we all have kind of a lens that we try to see things through or default see things through. What's yours?
As basically, my specialty's always been marketing management. So being that person that has to know just enough about every area of marketing, right? What was it? The jack of all trades, but master of none, right? But which is better than a master of one. I still would think the management piece is still a piece that you can be a master of, and that's what I really focus on. And when I look into an organization, I look at their sales, their marketing, their structures, their SOPs, what their organization elements are. How do they, do they have a good project management software? All of that. So I'm very operational and strategic in that standpoint. And then I rely a lot on bringing out the creative elements from their existing teams, because that creativity is usually there, right? And I'm not a creative, so I know you're a creative, right? So which is kind of interesting. It kind of ties to on my side. So how do you handle since you might have a little bit of everything, right? Because you might be good at creative and organization, but how do you handle the more administrative elements of building marketing teams, departments, things like that when you
That's a good
approach
question.
a
It is a good
new
question.
client?
The easy answer is that I keep a really strong network in my back pocket, because I very much believe in authenticity when it comes to marketing messaging, and that to truly reach an audience, you need to have somebody that speaks their language and truly understands their stories because they've lived it. So keeping a wide network of people I've worked with or that have stood out to me in the past that are already vetted, that's the first place that I kind of start if I'm starting from scratch. But I don't know. I think at the core, I'm a creative strategist. So whether that's messaging or visuals or brand strategy, that goes into how I build a team as well. I don't know if that really answers your question very
Oh,
well, but
it's it sounds like you're going to be playing to other people's strengths where you need to.
yes, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. So, yeah, I'm playing to other people's strengths. I'm looking at what does this specific project need? Who is best for this? If I am not hiring out beyond that, I'm looking at the existing team. Maybe that means reorg for who does what. This person hates this, and this person actually has a knack for it over here. Why is this one not doing that? Essentially, it's language matters also, and so something as simple as an SOP being a standard operating procedure being shifted in mindset to a suggested operating procedure, because I want to see what the team sees that I don't see. Just because I'm in leadership doesn't mean I know everything. Doesn't mean that I have the exact perfect way. It just means that, I can see all the moving pieces, and now I want to see what you're seeing over here in this niche area.
All right. So, Dmitry, who should be looking to hire you these days, and how should they contact you?
Well, I do specialize a lot in
Mhm.
helping establish and build marketing departments for companies that are looking to really uh, push into more in-house marketing staffing. So that's one of the things I really strive, like I'm really great at. It's coming up, recruiting, finding the right pieces for every side of marketing that they need for their organization, and making sure they're all internal. And then at the end, I like to always try to instill some sort of marketing leadership as well and bring that up while I'm still there. So that way, when I leave, things don't collapse. So I'm looking for clients that are essentially looking to scale and grow their own marketing departments and have proper SOPs and everything else to really grow and stay on an upward trajectory. And you can reach me by booking an intake call or a discovery call on flagshipstudio.com.
And Sarah, how about you? Who should be looking to hire you these days, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Anyone that has questions about implementing AI within their marketing teams and their brand processes, I'm your girl. I work with dynamic branding and am developing a SaaS tool for this as well. So anybody that needs help with messaging, brand stuff, big ideas, and really just tapping into your existing teams, especially if you've got neurodivergent people on your team, and understanding how to support them with AI. And you can find me at adalchemists.com or connect with me on LinkedIn.
All right. Thank you both. This has been so good. Very informative. Thanks,
you, Dean.
Dmitry, again. And thanks, Sarah. I really appreciate this.
All right. Well,
And thanks for watching. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.